A year ago, I came out here and I said this was the best time in any of our lifetimes to be a retailer. And I was going to run money for some other folks. I don't even know if I got a slideshow thing here. And so I went out and offered it as a product. And it turns out no one wants to talk about retail for the simple reason that while everyone thinks they're a contrarian, no one is actually a contrarian. If I went up here and said I ran an Ether Bitcoin thing and it was levered 100 to 1 and there was no chance it would go lower, we could perk up some ears. But no one wants to talk about Walmart. And I like that an awful lot. But what I really like is where we are in the transition cycle. Retail is insanely boring. I was raised in retail and it felt like kind of a curse for a long time because it's a super hard place to make money. You get these transitions every once in a while, but for the most part, it's a fight over who can charge a nickel less for Tide. But if you look back in time, you see these enormous transitions. Some of the greatest fortunes in American history have been made through retail. The Walton family, obviously. Walmart family, they made a dump truck full of money. The Nordstroms, billions and billions of dollars. Jeff Bezos, who was briefly the richest man in the world and then has been smited mightily. That's retail. This is big dollars. You can make a ton of money. No one wants to talk about it. I like that a lot. So if you look at the history, what retail really is distribution. That's what causes the changes. 100 years ago, Sears was the biggest retailer in the world, and they had not one store. Catalogs, mail order, the internet. They built up because of the railroad. The railroad allowed distribution. That went throughout the entire country. They didn't have one store. They hired this freaky guy named Robert C. Wood, who used to be a World War I general, and he taught them logistics, and he taught them demographics, and he said, you know what, we should build stores because people are moving to cities and we'll have stores. It was the greatest pivot in American corporate history. It was insane. Another 50, 80 years of Sears money. Then we went to big box stores. That's where my dad actually made his bones, running Target, making big stores as the baby boomers moved out to the burbs. Another trend change. Sears started losing traction. Walmart became the best stock you could possibly own. If you pull up a 20-year chart of Walmart into 1999, you will see an absolute fortune made, and it's one of my favorite longs right now. There's Robert C. Wood. I wasn't sure where we went. Oh, that's my old man. Hi, Dad. There's Dad right there before he built out Target. So I want to talk about two things. One, retail is dead. It's the dumbest effing thing I've ever heard in my life. There's no evidence that retail is dead. Retail is going to grow about twice GDP. Online, it's growing about 16% a year. It's never been easier for American consumers to buy crap any way they want to and have it shipped right to their house. It's, again, all about distribution. Every single one of you has a store in your pocket. Again, having grown up in retail, having worked at Macy's the last time they went bankrupt, which, by the way, they're going to again. Oh, yeah, JC, they are absolutely going to go bankrupt again because they're not spending on the stores. When you stop spending on the stores, it falls apart. That doesn't mean retail's dead. It means Macy's is dead. It means the companies that aren't keeping up are dead. It's ones who aren't embracing the technology and really being omni-channel, but rather kind of making noises that way. Macy's for years would talk about how they were omni-channel. It was all crap. It was all just not true. And my final piece of evidence for why the consumer is not only not dead, but doing great is my favorite economic indicator. The most discretionary item on the face of the earth, the Halloween costume for your dog. There is nothing. If you're feeling a little light in the wallet, you are not going to buy a bumblebee costume for your bulldog. Halloween sales are going to be up 8% this year. How bad can things really be? So this is where we pivot. This is where we pivot into the long-short side. Because my thesis was and remains, and this is how I'm making my living, has been to get long-short retail in a concentrated way. None of the analysts are working on it. No one's paying much attention. A lot of movement is going on. You're going to see $1 trillion shift in the way goods are distributed in this country. $1 trillion, that's 1,000 billion. So your Bitcoin are adorable to me, but the implications of moving $1 trillion of merchandise from one channel to another are much bigger, much, much bigger. Call centers, logistics, the stores themselves. Are malls dead? I don't know. Malls are 3,000 years old. People like to go to malls, as it turns out. So it works out fine. The results have been great. We're having a nice year. Knock on wood, knock on everything. I'm really superstitious. But let's talk about the short side. Let's talk about being short retailers, because a lot of folks are out there and they're not really making money. If you look at the retail index, it's down about 8%. No great shakes. But if you look at them as individual companies, some of the best shorts you're ever going to see. If Harvey Weinstein was an actual retail chain, he would be Victoria's Secrets. He peaked about 20 years ago. He clearly hates women, and he's got this anachronistic sense for what people are attracted to and how he can go about attaining it. This is a company that's going lower. This is a company that's going to miss estimates. And you got to dig in there a little bit. Again, most people don't like shopping, but having been raised there, I go to the stores. Victoria's Secret's like just a dirty drawer that you would find someplace. I mean, I apologize to every woman in this place for what they have to go through to buy bras. Bras are about an $8 billion industry in the United States, a huge industry. And beyond that, if you know what kind of bra a woman's buying, you know a lot about her. You can cross-sell her almost anything. If she's buying maternity wear, if she's buying a sexy bra, if she's buying a plain bra, you can sell and cross-sell a crib for maternity wear. You can cross-sell wedding goods if she's getting something a little wedding related. You can do it any number of different ways that Victoria's Secret could be capturing this market, and they're doing none of it. They're not gathering any information. And what's more, if you actually shop in the stores, they're out of stock. They walk their customers through the fitting area, which they've got all these skanky bras to try on. And they take them out of that experience and put them straight into a room that looks like the back room of Scores. They're selling bras to all the gentlemen in here, and it turns out we're not the core customer. It looks dark. It looks like you've got really skinny, waifish models wearing wings like they're Mothman. I don't know when that was sexy, but it's not sexy now. It's not actually resonating with women folk. So when you go to the mall, which most people think is unpleasant anyway, Victoria's Secret is actually this kind of brothel-looking, bright pink, nasty red area that objectifies and treats people horribly and insults them in 1,000 different ways. And they've got commanding market share in this industry. Again, it's $8 billion US. They do about $3 billion in bras, and they could not possibly be a worse store. And so from the short side, I know a few different things. One, as long as that management team stays in, they're going to miss. So the thing about retail is that you've got really small margins, and to understand it completely, you have to understand both the numbers and the narrative. You got to understand the numbers to know if the company's liquid enough to actually turn it around, and the narrative to know if they even know what the problem is. Victoria's Secret, their response to weak sales has been to go to fast fashion and more sizes. Fast fashion is a cheaper way to produce goods with less expensive material. They're chafing their customers' private parts. That's their answer. Gentlemen, I can assure you, women don't like that just as much as you would not like that. They're going to lose share, and they're going to lose it in a huge way. Where's it going to go? It's going to go to companies like American Eagle Outfitters. It's going to go to private companies. It's going to go to any number of disruptors, but that's of less concern to me than the fact that I can buy puts in Victoria's Secret, which is owned by limited brands, pretty much before every time they're going to report. And the only way I'm going to miss is if they change their management team or announce some radical departure. Otherwise, it's just a metronome. The stock peaked right around 99. It's 41, 42. It's not necessarily at this point an investment short, but it's a company that's going to disappear. Is that bad for retail? My God, it's a triumph for women. It's a spectacular event. Again, a fantastic time to be a consumer. It's just not necessarily a great time to be a bad retailer. And so the idea that has been prevailing for the last couple of years is A, retail's dead. That's not true. B, malls are dead, which is weird and kind of a millennial idea, because I know none of you think you're going to become your parents. Here's a spoiler you're not going to like. You're going to become your parents so fast, it'll make your head spin. And if you think you're all about the experience rather than the stuff, it's because when you're in your 20s, your job sucks and you don't have any money. When you actually have money and you're married and you've got kids, the idea of staying home and shopping in some virtual reality helmet while my kids are screaming their heads off and they just need to go outside, is anathema. It sounds just, it's hell. It's of course you're going to go to the mall because it's a nice place to kill time. It's a nice place to be. It's safe. You can buy things. It's social. People like it. That's why it's 3,000 years old. That's why everyone goes there. It's not going anywhere. And even if it is, it goes online, which, by the way, the idea that selling things online is going to be a margin killer for everybody is precisely exactly wrong. If you survey people, and I meant to do this, I'm kind of giving it away, but they'll tell you over and over again that price is the number one determinant of how they shop. That was the big scare story, right? Best Buy was going to go out of business because people would showroom. How many of you are members of Amazon Prime? How much does it cost? What is it? No, what is Amazon Prime? Kinda. They add video. They give you some music. It's an amorphous offering that they're able to get away charging and make about $10 billion in free cash flow a year, just churning, and no one pays attention to what they're being charged. Amazon's not the price leader, but they're taking 40% of the growth online. Online retail is growing about 16% a year, give or take. This is a massive growth operation that people are buying despite the price. They're not paying any attention. You pay $10 a month and then they give you free shipping. It's not to give away all the tricks of retail, but it's not free if you're paying for it. It just isn't. They can put it in free on the bottom there. But the reason they're able to get away with it is what they're doing is they're charging you the option to not have to go to Target or to go to Walmart or these stores that have been out of date and out of touch. At this point, the worm has turned. And so what I'm looking for on the long side are the anti-Victoria's Secrets, are the companies that are just working to cut into that margin that Amazon has. They've got this massive head start on the rest of the retail world in the sense that they've really been investing. What Amazon cracked the code on was that profits don't matter in the interim, in the short term for retail, because market share is sticky. Sears. Has anyone been to a Sears lately? Throw out a ballpark estimate for what you think the revenues are going to be this year. Anyone? $20 billion. You walk into a Sears and honestly the PA system yells F you. There's nothing more insulting than a Sears store. It's ill-kept, there's nothing in stock, but people have the habit. Once you get people to use you as their store, they'll stick around. I bet most of you go to the same market over and over again. I bet most of you don't even think about whether or not you're going to sign up for Prime again. Because of course you are, because it's so by far the best. Well, as it turns out, Walmart figured that out. They paid $3.3 billion for Jet. I was angry because I should have thought of Jet myself. But as it turns out, Walmart now is going to improve e-commerce by 40% next year, annualized. They're growing faster than Amazon is online. They're going to do about $30 billion in sales online. Amazon does about $100 billion. The next 8 companies that would make up the top 10 don't do anywhere near it. It's an absolute boot stomping. I've never seen an opportunity like this. And again, the prevailing narrative that's just dominant is the death of retail. It's not the death of retail, it's the shift of retail. And you can make money off it a lot of different ways, and I kind of dedicate my whole life to figuring out how to do it. Because you've got this situation where Walmart is going to surprise to the upside, but it's way too big. It's a $250 billion company. And so there's an element of trading to this. There's an element of trying to maximize your profits off it. But it really comes down to just taking advantage of a shift that's going to happen, whether you like it or not. Whatever you think about it, what's happening is omni-channel. It's a buzzword that's been abused so much it almost means nothing, but it simply comes down to you can shop wherever you want. You can order it wherever you want. And I can tell you this, having worked at Macy's, it's much cheaper to have an app than it is to have a store. And the other good thing about your app is that you can control what it's like. Because it's not that hard to run one retail store. Not that hard to run 2. It's really hard to run 2,000 Gaps. And to make sure that the customer service is the level you want, that it's clean, that there's not junk everywhere, that you have a manager that's worthwhile and not shoplifting. All that goes away if you have a good app. And when you think about a call center, which replaces all the associates you have, you can give a level of service that is exactly what you pay for. I've got a buddy who runs a call center down in Tijuana. Pays about $3 an hour. He tells his customers, I will give you however many stars you want your app to have. It's simply what you pay me. Because as in most things in life, if you have a customer service line where you pick up on the first ring and you say yes to the customer, people are inclined to like you. But if you're an airline, you can leave people on hold for 2 hours because they can't do anything about it. They're stuck, they're screwed. So you have a captive audience, you have an ability to control the customer service experience in a way that you never had before. If you have a customer in the bra business, when I see my daughter shop, that's a person who is going to be shopping for bras for the next 60 years. I don't care what Victoria's Secret's quarterly numbers are because the next 60 years is going to be bigger. It's going to be more. It's going to be a lot. And if you capture the information on the cycle of her life, this can be a brand that's going to be part of the rest of her life. And the winner in that particular little subcategory that, by the way, extrapolates into everything you can imagine buying is going to be the company that brings it all together, that will sell you a bra sitting in this room at a store that doesn't look like a European brothel, at a place that makes you feel comfortable, that offers an oasis from shopping. The Aries within American Eagle Outfitters are exceptional stores. It's like a little spa, an oasis. Those are the guys who are going to win, and you can find them if you do the research. And there's a lot of money to be made. And it's like this secret trade that I shouldn't even be telling anyone about. But it's going to take a few years to happen. Over about the next 4 or 5 years, you're going to see $1 trillion shift. And the money that is going to shift from the trucking distribution, from the C-list malls, when they talk about ghost malls, it's a cliquey segment that doesn't mean anything. Old malls die. So do 60-year-old swimming pools. That's the circle of life. If you make a mall that's nice and people want to hang out and their kids are safe, they're going to show up. If you make a store that delivers everywhere, if my target experience is the same in the app, online, and at the store, I'll go there over and over again. And if not, I won't. It's a long, short thesis. It's $5 trillion. You guys can ignore it. I like it as a trade. So that's retail, and much more interesting than Walmart. Questions? Really, you can ask anything. We can talk about it. Yeah. Tapestry. Yeah, right? I'm not sure that's Coach's problem. I'm not sure people were saying, you know, I'd buy the Coach man bag if only it weren't called Coach, but instead Tapestry. I mean, they're groping. Again, the answer is really obvious here. You've got transformative technology that allows you to know the taste, preferences, desires of your customers in ways that you never did before. When I was working at Macy's 5,000 years ago, you didn't know the customers. They were strangers. You developed a relationship with them. You were someone's suit guy. That's a tremendous value-adding experience. When people tell you that department stores are all dead, ask them where they're going to take their kids to buy a suit. It's not going to be online. It's going to be with someone who calls them sir. And it's going to be clean, and they're going to buy a nice little $200 suit, and they're going to feel like a little man, and it's going to be an awesome shopping experience. Because that's how human beings behave. And when you say that's going to be replaced by virtual reality helmets, the burden of proof is not on me to suggest that that's just bullshit. It's just bullshit. And, you know.
Where's the biggest part you think that is being completely missed, right? Like everybody's like, oh yeah, everyone's buying everything on Amazon, so short this and that. We're putting that aside. Like something that we're missing, where there is like a traditional retailer, and then there it's being disrupted, and there's a very specific long and short that you think people are just missing.
The long is Walmart. And because of the internet potential and because of the fact that Walmart generates right around $20 billion a year that they can choose to spend however they want. They also have a tremendous credit rating. You can short until recently. Target's getting their act together much more, but for the most part, the bitsy piecey shorts are the ones that you're going to find at the mall. Foot Locker was just glorious, because all you can read for months has been how bad Nike is. And then you walk into a Foot Locker and some guy in a referee shirt is trying to sell you a $500 pair of shoes that they don't have in 12. We got a 7 and a 14. You think one of those will work? No, I don't think that is going to work. It's really hard to run shoe stores that way. And so when you find companies like that that are suspended, that stock didn't even break until about 6 months ago. It's bear porn. How lost these companies are is absolutely, it is a script that you would write if you said, I've got a lot of money riding on this, and wouldn't it be fantastic if the CEO of Victoria's Secret decided chafing people's privates was the answer to this company? Wouldn't that be a dream? I mean, it's a crazy dream. It could never happen that way, but that would be a fantastic conference call. That's actually happening right now. Foot Locker is actually saying, we think it's going to be a great experience for people to come in and buy their $500 shoes from a guy in a ref jersey and not be in stock. That's ludicrous. It's just crazy. And so what you're seeing in replace that are that the vendors themselves are becoming reluctant retailers. PVH, Philip Van Heusen, or Tommy, the brands that you don't think of are actually selling them themselves. And the reason that they do it in PVH's case is they own Calvin Klein. For years, department stores had so much leverage over them because they would spend all this money and you'd get placement. And if you weren't in the department stores, you had no place else to sell. And so Calvin would spend all this money creating their brand, and then they'd find their products sitting in a bin with Munsingware and 40% off at some crap Macy's stores. It destroyed their brand. They're becoming the retailers themselves. Turns out it's much better margins. You actually get your money worth when you pay for all the models and all the people that you want to look in your attractive little clothes, and you control the customer relationship. And so Nike won't be fixed by Foot Locker getting better. They'll just start selling better to customers. And I think that's the bigger arb, is that the brands themselves, people are starting to notice it, but not to the degree that they could. Because it's most of these brands, if they wanted to be retailers, they would have been already. But they're kind of being forced to. And as a result, you're going to see a company like Macy's is zero. Unless private equity comes and takes them out, they're gone.
So good. We got to move on, but you're gonna be here for a while or no?
I guess. Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna be like here today.
I'll be hanging out. I'll be at the stores.
Jeff will be hanging out.
Anyway, thank you guys.
So good.